I'm Catherine Sheeran, host of the podcast Horse Tales with Cat.
My guest today hails from the United States, but now makes his home in Telegraph Trail, British Columbia. Kyle King has been forging a path of success in show jumping for more than 30 years. Most recently, he won the Jamin Built Cup in July and was second in the CPKC Rail Grand Prix in September at Spruce Meadows with his mare, Hay&Z. Today, he joins us from the Highland Cup Horse Show in Hudson Valley, New York. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to meet you.
So normally I like to start with how you came to the sport, but I'm really excited about speaking with you about that recent second place showing in the big class at Spruce Meadows, because I can tell you, having watched the live streaming, you were the only rider that came out of that second round actually with a smile on your face. I don't think I'd ever seen as many depressed faces as in that second round of the Grand Prix. And yet, I think what really came across was just your joy in being there. So maybe take me through just the journey of that day, and then we'll kind of go into your history with riding.
Yeah, well, that day it's been a fun ride with Cayenne. It kind of started in February. The mare was sent to me. Some good friends of mine from Belgium, Michael Krumpus and Kirsten Rambout. I do some business with them, and I had been looking. I got a really nice 7-year-old from them earlier in the year, and when I was over there trying horses, I tried a horse at one of Kirsten's really good friends' farms, and
Carton?
and Carton. Anyways, long story short, they sent me the mare as a sales horse, and Anne and Kirsten came over to visit and stayed at my house for the week. The first week the mare was there, and I got to know her a little bit, and then slowly started stepping her up, did her a couple of 30 classes, and then there was one night I was going to do her in her first national Grand Prix, and it was a really weird night where everything was blowing like crazy. The flowers were blowing under the jumps, and I did two of my other veteran partners, and they had some rough goes, and I almost scratched, thinking maybe this isn't the best night to do my first class with her under the lights, and she came out. She was amazing. She was double clear. We were second or third in that Grand Prix, and I thought, oh man, this mare's pretty cool. And then we finished there. I did a couple local shows in California, the national kind of level. And then I started thinking about Spruce Meadows, and I think she would really suit Spruce Meadows. Long story short, we got to Spruce the first week. Well, just before we got to Spruce, all of my partners in Europe on her were starting to put some pressure that I need to get her sold. Have I had any trials on her? And I was like, I'm really thinking this mare is going to suit me. And then they had somebody that wanted to come over and try her. And long story short, a kid that rides with me, Reagan Tom, her dad is Greg Tom, and he's become a good friend of mine and a good supporter. And he stepped up and secured her for me. So I told him that this mare is going to be able to do something special. And we got to Spruce Meadows, and Ben Aslin asked me if I'd take part in this shooting that they're doing called the Road to the Masters, which is going to be Netflix style thing on show jumping. And they followed the top contenders for the CPKC Grand Prix. And then they chose me as like the outsider, and I really had no clue what this mare was going to do, if she would handle that level. And she's pretty green really at all that stuff. So the first day they mic'd me up. The camera's following us around, and I warmed up nicely, and I went in the ring, and I'd been talking about this mare and how she's going to be able to jump the big Grand Prix, and I really had no idea. And I cantered down to the first jump. The mare spooked at it. I didn't have enough leg. She stopped, put her head through the jump. I almost fell off. I was mic'd up. I don't know what kind of bad words I said, but I was like, oh my gosh. This is not good. Long story short, we started there. I backed her down. I just kept her in the meter 50s that week. And luckily, I was able to do my other horse, Odysseus, in the Grand Prix. By week 3, I moved her into some bigger classes and we started getting some confidence. And then by the final week of Spruce Meadows, she jumped 3 clear rounds in the Queen Elizabeth Cup and ended up second. And I think I won the qualifier that week. Yeah, she won a meter 55 class and then 3 clear rounds in the Queen Elizabeth. And she was everything that I said she was going to be and was hoping she was going to be. And so then we qualified. As being an individual, this year was a particular hard year to get into the Masters as an American individual. So that was a big stressor. Was I actually going to qualify? And then I earned the one spot that they allowed, got to the Masters. And this whole time I'm being filmed by this TV show. They flew out and followed me around and came to my house. And I had a lot of things going on. And I just felt like it was kind of destiny that it was all going to happen. So first day of the Masters, you have 2 chances to qualify on Wednesday and Thursday. Being an individual, it's really hard to qualify, especially this year being the biggest Grand Prix in history, $5 million, everybody. So if you're on a team, you get a third shot to qualify. So it was really an outside chance, but I did qualify for the Grand Prix. And then, like I said, I just really felt like I had destiny on my side. And before we walked the course, somebody said, if you make the second round, it's an automatic 150 grand in your pocket. So that was probably a big part of my smile when I was coming out of the ring, is I knew no matter what, I'd made 150 grand. The rest of the class went amazing. It's so close to really being the total fairy tale. But for me, it was still an amazing win. That class was watched by every person in the whole show jumping world. And a lot of people never really, from Europe especially, have never heard of me. And I'm still kind of living like a rock star here. Everybody I see is still congratulating me. So I'm living it up as long as I can, because I know this sport. Your normal classes, it's over by the next time you go in the ring. But this one I can hold on to for a little bit.
Absolutely. And I think you should revel in it. It was just so phenomenal because it really was obvious that there was just so much joy in what you were achieving, and you had a great connection with her. And as I said, I myself watching was thinking first round was pretty tough. And then I heard them during the intermission talking to Leopoldo, and he was saying, oh, second round's even tougher. And I'm thinking, you've just put these horses through quite a test. And then that second round really was even harder. And then all these riders, as I said, they just looked so dejected. And I was wondering, I really would have loved to have spoken to any one of them that came out just thinking, how do you deal with the psyche of it all? And how does it feel for your horse? Because they're trying, with this tremendous effort, and these jumps are huge. They're tall and they're wide, and it's technically difficult. And then that they're all careful. They don't want to hit a rail. So it was just this smile on your face after the second round, let alone the third. I just thought it really spoke to the sport. And as you say, I do feel like it probably was destiny. I love hearing this background story about the horse almost got sold out from under you, because that happens to so many riders. And I always think that's probably the most challenging part of the sport, is that you build this bond with this horse and then somebody else moves in and you're not even sure that they will do that job for the next rider, because they do build a special chemistry with you. So my hat goes off to you, and I hope that people do continue to congratulate you. I just noted, even when I was looking at your Facebook page, that there was a comment from McLean Ward, and I thought it was so lovely. He said something about, great for you, Scott Brush, like no insult meant, but well done, Kyle. And I just thought that was exceptional.
I heard so many different stories from people. I had one friend that's pulled over on the side of the freeway to watch it because he was freaking out, and a cop pulled up behind him, and the cop approached his car, and then he was telling him about what he was watching. So the cop actually sat in the front seat of the car and watched the second round with it, watched the jump off with him anyway.
So how fun.
I had another friend that was on an airplane and started screaming, and she said the whole airplane looked at her. I was for sure, I had most people in the planet, I think, rooting me on, and I think I really felt it. It was a funny day, and I've told a couple people this my whole life. That has been a bigger goal of my father's and mine, and Spruce Meadows has always been my one avenue to kind of compete against the best in the world. Coming from California and the West Coast. And every day when I was training horses, I remember we used to have a hill. I would always imagine exactly that scenario. I mean, so many hundreds and thousands of times in that class, going in the jump off against the best in the world and going through those timers and looking up and seeing first place. And so I really felt like I'd been there before. It was a weird, real feeling. I really wasn't super nervous. I was just in my zone and ready for the moment. And it couldn't have been, I was really proud of the way I did it with this mare because she's green enough, but she's very capable and she's obviously a special horse. But I was able to really train her all summer at Spruce Meadows, training for that specific class, and it worked out really perfect. I gave her a big break after the Spruce Meadows tour, the summer tour, and just kind of really got her fresh and ready for that, kind of knowing what I was going to do after and come back on this East Coast tour. So I didn't want to overcook her. It dialed in and it worked out to be the perfect week and perfect class. She was fifth in that first class that week, double clear the first night out, one cheap rail on the Thursday, but we still top 10 finish, I think, and qualified and then pulled that off. I mean, just one stupid plank away from really making the history books. But like I said, $1 million paycheck was good enough for me for the day. And, it was really cool because Greg supported me with some other horses and stuff over the past few years. And we sell them all, his daughter rides them, and I've sold some of the other horses. But this one, I really told him that I think this horse can compete at the highest end of the sport. It's nice when it actually comes together. So when somebody supports you like that you can actually back it up. And really special mare and special day.
Well, and I would imagine what's lovely about this partnership is she could also be an Olympic mount for you because she's young enough still that she could be at that level then. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I've been working on this for 6 years. My wife's Canadian and I'm a permanent resident of Canada. Back when Mark Laskin was the chef to keep, he was working on me to get my passport. I've been trying to earn enough days in country, which is really hard to do it the total proper way. It's just impossible. As many days as I try, even during the COVID thing, I stayed in Canada quite a longer time, but yeah, I still can't. Within a 5-year period, you have to have 1,150 days in the country to become a citizen. My permanent residency is fine because I'm with my wife always, who's a Canadian citizenship. But long story short, once this mare did the Queen Elizabeth Cup, I've been talking to Ian for quite a while, but Ian sat me down and pretty much said that if I can get this sorted quickly and get my passport, that pretty much he can almost shoe me in for a spot to go compete next year in Aachen, which is very much like Spruce Meadows. I'm a very proud American and I love America, all my friends and competitors and all that, but to earn a spot on that team is very unlikely for a guy like me. It's just I've never represented U.S. in any capacity ever, and Canada has been really asking for me, and I'm going to make this happen. I'm in a rush period right now to get it done, trying to get it done by January 1st. I think I may have a little time after because Auckland's not till next summer. But with a mare like this, and especially in a situation like big field or an Auckland type thing for the WEG, that's a big goal. The Olympics is a whole nother thing. That's a few years down the road. And yes, absolutely. She's capable and cool. I've been now after that big summer tour, I've done 2 shows now on the major league back east. And her greenness is showing up a little bit in the rideability. But I just need to get some miles on her. And it's one thing in a grass field and in the big bright jumps where I can use the gallop. And I knew what I was facing when I came back here. I knew it would take me a few weeks to adjust. We just had a good round about an hour and a half ago, which was a lot closer. We have a good Grand Prix on Saturday. And then there's one more run. We go the week after down to Tryon for one more major league. And it's going to take me a few rounds now to get her, learn how to ride her in a smaller ring. And it's just different type of riding where I've really only shown her on the grass since I've had her. I got that figured out, and now I got to figure out the other part of it. But yes, it's the Olympics and World Championships and Pan Ams and all that are very much on the top of my list right now.
Well, and I wanted to speak to that. You pointed out, and I think this is something that I've noted in speaking with so many riders, particularly from the States. There's so much depth in the US. There's just so many horses and riders, and it is very challenging to represent the team. So I think it's a fabulous opportunity for us as Canadians to have that possibility with you. And I have to admit, I was speaking with Carl Dewar just a couple of days ago because I did an episode with him a few weeks back, and he was over the moon with the idea that you could possibly be on the Canadian team. And that's something that he's gearing up for. The reality is you could have 3 Kyles on the team because there's also Kyle Tim. And I said, wouldn't that be pretty cool?
That'd be funny. That'd be funny. I've always, my father had a business partner, Bob Mulholland, up in Vancouver when I was a kid. And my horses have always come from Canada. I was raised by 2 Canadian women. I mean, not my mother, but my dad was with a lady named Wendy Laidler when I was probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those years. Julia Spreen was later in my teenage years. They were so I've been raised by Canadian women. My horses have always come from Canada. I'd spend all my summers in Canada. My wife's Canadian. I just feel like Canada's always been, and especially for my horse career, everybody's always thought I was Canadian because I spent so much time up here and always talk like a Canadian. My best buddy was from Canada. Everybody always thought I was from Canada. It just kind of makes sense. Canada's really been welcoming to me. And like I said, they've already pretty much, obviously I have to have the horse and I have to be performing, but if I'm holding my own and doing that, then I'm pretty much got a spot right up at the top, really trying hard to get this done quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's tough in the sport because so many of the competitions are outside of Canada if you want to be competitive at that level. So I can appreciate that it's hard getting those days in Canada if you're going to be competing. That's just the reality.
Yeah, reality is not. I mean, I do as much as I possibly can. Like I said, my base is in Langley, right across the street from Thunderbird, which is a wonderful show, and I do every tournament there. And then I do the 6 weeks in Calgary. I go back and I do as much as I can at Thunderbird. I mean, I do as much as I can until the horse shows are done, and then you have to keep competing to stay at this level and keep my business running.
And I wanted to back up a little bit because I didn't know you were from California. I kind of assumed Nevada for some reason. I think because I had read somewhere that you had ridden horses for someone in Nevada. So take me back to your early years of how you got started, because I also know that you've done a lot of the thermal California circuit as opposed to doing the Florida circuit. So I was just curious, is that because of where you were raised or just the different, how do you even decide which circuit you're doing in the winter?
Oh boy. Well, I've done every circuit there is out there. I've been a bit of a gypsy forever. My father was always a horse dealer and a horse trainer from California. My mother and him had a business together. My mom was a rider before I was born, and in my first couple of years, they had a business together. And then my dad got a job working for a private family in Bakersfield, the Youngers, Cece and Linda Younger. And so I traveled and they did the big circuit back, and I was going back a while. So I was always introduced to the international level at a young age through that. And then my dad was a horse dealer for years, and I was his rider. And we moved around quite a bit, but we primarily based in Thousand Oaks, Westlake, LA kind of area until I was 17. We again moved up to Canada. My dad, Bob, gave us a barn, and I had some of my first Grand Prix horses. Actually, I should back up a second. A year before that, I got a job with a man named Doug White. That's where you think the Nevada thing came up. Doug and Julie White offered me a job, and I got a chance to come show all of his horses at Spruce Meadows for the whole summer, which was my first times in the international ring and competing some really top horses. And then my dad kind of called me back again, needed me. He was going through another move and whatever. And so then he and I kind of got a string of horses together and we moved up to Canada. Then Canada kicked us out because didn't do anything legal. We were up there making a living and showing. And then I bought a farm with my dad in San Marcos, California, which we spent a good 15, 20 years working out of that place. And during those years, I traveled around a lot. I would kind of take a group of horses and I was exploring and experimenting. We would go back to Florida, do the circuit. I did the Wellington tour with a good Grand Prix horse, got to do the American Invitational and stuff like that. In other years, I won Grand Prix and shown in almost every state in America. I mean, I would from the Midwest to you name a state, I've probably done a Grand Prix there or probably won a Grand Prix there and toured around as a real sort of gypsy. Our base was in California, but a couple winters we based in Ocala as a team with my dad. Kind of came time when I needed to go on my own, and I ended up buying a place in Ocala. So I lived in Ocala for 5 years. California was always, and Vancouver, West Coast was always calling me, and it's where would still primarily get my horses and clients and such from. So I was riding a horse, living in Florida still, but I was riding a horse from Vancouver Island named Quigley, and that's where I met my wife, Emily. She was an amateur riding at the barn there that I was riding the Grand Prix horse for. Then we started a business. Shortly after that, I met a man named Stuart Belkin from Vancouver, who kind of took me under his wing and built a beautiful farm and facility there and right across the street from Thunderbird. And that's where I've been based for the last 7, 8 years. I think it took a couple of years to get the barn built, but for sure the last 6 years I've had that great facility to use and base out of, and it's kind of given me some stability, and it's been a game changer for me. And like I said, I became a permanent resident, and going from there, there was a lot in between there. I just kind of squished it into a pretty tight thing. I was also pretty much known as a catch rider for a lot of years. I would show up at horse shows with maybe one horse in a saddle and have 5 or 6 horses by the end of the second day, and would always kind of jump on anything and try my best. And I had a lot of good results doing that, and that doesn't really get you in the 5-star level. That gets you competing, and I got a lot of good horses doing that. But my focus now is to try to I still feel like I'm in my prime physically, and riding is as good as I ever have, and sport we're lucky to be able to go for a while. So as long as I can stay fit and healthy, my focus now for this, I guess, the twilight of my career. I mean, if I do everything right, I should have a good 10 years left at the high level. But I really want to focus and do some things like I did in September at Spruce Meadows. And I've won, I don't know, probably 100 Grand Prix around the country, national Grand Prix and this and that, and all from Mississippi to Louisiana to Texas to Boston, New York, New Jersey, all over the place. But I really want to do some things at the 5-star level, and I want to compete in Europe really, really badly with the right horses, and Aachen for sure is a bucket list. I would love to, yeah, the Olympics would be amazing. It'd be crazy if I actually made it to the Olympics and it's only 30 minutes from my house, but that's the way, not in 2 hours from my house. We base for half the year in Indio.
I think that's what's so fun about this sport. I mean, Laura Kraut is a perfect example. She's in her 60s and she's having the time of her life. So you have lots of years ahead of you. But I also think it is amazing to think that, yes, you're kind of really hitting your stride, because it's not like you're unknown. I mean, you've been winning Grand Prix for years. You just haven't had the opportunity to represent your country. So I think it would just be awesome to see you get to ride in the Olympics at this point, check off all those boxes that riders want to check off, and have a new opportunity. Because I can fully appreciate, I've spoken to a number of riders where Aachen is their bucket list. I interviewed Mario Delorier last year, and he had never been to Aachen. This year was his first time going. And I just thought, how special is that? At this point in his life, he gets to go. And I think you have a gift. It just sometimes it doesn't get realized until later. And it must be really exhilarating to get to experience all of this right now. And then with a partner, I haven't met Emily, but just thinking you have somebody with you on this journey, that's got to be a real rush. And I have to share with our listeners that when I first reached out to you, the two of you were in Rome. And I just loved that you were on the back of a scooter and called me back. And it was just that week I spoke with you, and I also spoke with McLean Ward. And I was just sort of like, how cool is this for me?
Well, I don't normally do vacations without horses involved, but I did find a way to find a horse show when I was, we were in Palermo for a couple nights, and we looked it up, and there was a 4-star horse show in Palermo. So we I took a cab and went over there and checked it out, and it was fun. I thought I would know somebody, and I didn't know anybody. I was kind of shocked that I didn't recognize one person from there, but I did have to see one horse show when I was, and then when I was the last night I was there, my daughter had met us after the first night we were in Rome, and then we went to Palermo, and then we went down to the very bottom. My daughter was flying out with us, and so we went to Rome, and I wanted her to see it. We didn't get there till midnight. And I got on some scooters and we drove her around and showed her the Coliseum and everything. And she looks over and she says, "There's a horse show down there." I said, "What are you talking about?" And I looked over. There was the Global Champions Tours going on over there right now. So we saw two horse shows. I didn't see the horse. It hadn't started yet, but it was all set up with the ring and everything. I was like, "You got to be kidding me." That was it was a fun trip.
Well, and I meant to ask, was that trip spontaneous? Was that we just were second in the Grand Prix, we're going to go to Italy, or had you already planned that?
No, it's been planned for years. It's Emily's mom's 60th this year and my 50th. And so it was her big plan for the last like 2 years. She's been planning this, and it just worked out that it was perfect because I decided to do this major league, and it happened to be the dark week. I was able to do the first week in Greenwich, and then there was 8 days open, and one of my very good friends, Gabby, was able to keep my horses fit for me. And so yeah, I went and ate a bunch of pasta and drank too much, and now I'm taking me a couple days to get my feet under me. I feel like we're back on now. We got the weekend to come up. We got the big team class tomorrow night, and then the Grand Prix on Saturday. Then I keep going. On Sunday, I'm gonna fly back to Vancouver, start setting up the barn. I've got my whole team of horses back there that I haven't seen for a couple of weeks now. So I got to school a few horses and start getting my cars across the border and get everything set up. And then I come back to the other major league, which is in Tryon, and then I fly back to Canada and start shipping horses down to California, and then we're set up for the winter tour. So I'm hustling right now. We're moving.
Well, what I was going to say I love about hearing about this entire year is it really does seem like fate was on your side then, because everything has lined up. Imagine just that it's your 50th birthday year, it's your mother-in-law's 60th birthday year, and then you are second in the big Grand Prix. You had already planned this trip, so it's probably sort of paid for by the class. Just, I feel like whatever you're doing, you're on a roll, and you need to continue with the plan that the two of you have made, because it does seem like it's karmically coming into fruition. Yeah. So sometimes
when you
works.
get a string of horses together, you got to jump on it when they're going and when it comes around, because like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and to have a team of horses that are capable of jumping at this level, there's many levels of show jumping that you can be competitive and have a great time and feel successful and all that. But at this level, it's difficult to maintain. I've dabbled in it a few times and can have a good little run, but then your business starts to slack. It's not like you carry a bunch of clients doing this. And I feel like it's well-rounded enough right now. And this team of horses that's come together allows me to compete at this level, and then I can still have my other younger ones and my clients to do the other levels and stay busy and rotate. And when you get a string like this together, then you got to do it while it's hot. It's time to push, and feel like everything's going well right now. And I'm gonna, as long, you just got to be careful and maintain these horses and not do too much. And so I was pretty proud of my schedule this year. A horse like this, I could have done a lot more, but I really wanted to train her at Spruce for that particular goal. And then now I switch gears, and now I'm trying to get her at this level, a different kind of show jumping, still the highest level 5-star competitions with the best in the world, but in smaller arenas. It's a whole different thing. But she's getting there. She was really good today. She's been getting better every class. Feeling pretty good. My chances on Saturday, I'm feeling a lot better after today. And then I think by the time we get to Tryon, I should be right there with these boys. Everything goes to plan.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your training philosophy, because I did note that you seem to be very respectful of your horses, in that I've seen you haven't overdone it. Because I had this conversation with another amateur rider recently. We were just talking about, are there so many jumps in a horse? And it does seem like you don't overdo it. I've noticed that you will retire from a class, and it's not because it's too tough. It's just, you know what, we've done what we need to do, and let's save the horse for another day. I just wondered where that came from. Is that just from years of riding? Just where did that philosophy come from?
Yeah, I mean, I live with these horses, and I've been doing this for a long time. And they're my partner. Every horse is different. Some horses you can go more with, but I, as a rule, I rarely jump my horses more than twice a week at a horse show. Once they're at a certain, maybe younger ones, you might go 3 days occasionally. At Spruce Meadows, sometimes you have to go a little more just because qualifications and such. But as a general rule, at my horses, they'll show twice a week, no matter, and I'll rotate and try to keep them fresh. I don't jump all that much. We show so much that there's certain times of the season when I'll train at home or getting ready for an event or something. But it's really about, having a really good team behind you. That I have some really good people behind me right now that look after my horses, and my wife keeps everything so organized on another level than I ever have before as far as veterinary preventative work. And I have a farrier that I think is the best farrier in the world. He only works for my barn anymore. I got lucky. He's sort of semi-retired. So he's the only guy that touches my horses. I don't switch around farriers. He schedule it to where he's the only guy that touches them. One of my vets, I have kind of two vets that I use. One down in California, Duncan Peters, and then up in Vancouver, Robin Cupola. She actually owns a piece of one of my horses. And I ride some horses for her too. So I have the same people always with my horses. Sometimes I think, I don't know how some of these people do it when they're having different farriers all over the place and different vets. And so they know most of my horses, and those two vets and my farriers, they all work together. Got a great team of girls that work for me and have for quite a while, that they do almost everything for me. I mean, I'm pretty much the lead singer of the band, and they do everything else, so it works out. I've got a great system. Finally, it's taken me a long time to figure it out, and then I have some good people standing behind me. I know a lot of people have talked about it before, probably to you and stuff, but this business, these guys at this level, at the 5-star level, they would be top CEOs of companies. That it's amazing, just being around these guys and seeing how they work. You're always kind of a product of your environment. It's not the way I was raised. I was raised ride better than the rest and train better, and the opportunities will come. And that's not really the way it works. That was my dad's philosophy, and it was great and installed that cool mentality, I think, can-do attitude, but that can work at the national level and find horses in backyards and make them better. And to do the 5-star level and to maintain, you have to have people behind you and believing in you and supporting you. And that takes working at it a little bit, and really working at the relationships and dressing the right way and presenting yourself the right way. And I was always thought I was a bit of a cowboy, and I thought that billionaire would show up and want me to ride his horses, and I could run around like a little wild man all the time. And because I always worked hard, I always rode hard, but it's different, that to compete at this level, you really had, these guys it blows me away watching them, how they interact, and always dealing and working and scheming and thinking about. It's a different level that these guys work at, and it's something that I feel like I'm starting to scratch the surface and getting better at it, being seen at the right place. And
thank you for being so honest about that, because I feel like the average person in the horse world doesn't know all that. It all looks really shiny and sparkly from the outside, and I don't think people recognize exactly how much work goes into it. And I feel like I'm very privileged right now in getting to talk to people like yourself and hearing your stories and what you've done. And as you said, it's so many people echo what you said about having a good team, that you're only as good as the people that you're surrounded by. I was curious, do you use people for body work, or do you do chiro? I'm always curious at your level what kind of work the horses are having.
So they get all of it, all of it. We have laser machines. We have chiropractors that come in. We have my vets there 2 to 3 days a week, coming with different, because I have a 25-30 horse operation. So yeah, we have acupuncturists, laserists that come in just to do lasering, mostly preventative. I mean, that's the whole deal. It's I never really bought into that when I was younger. My dad and I were always on a budget, so we kind of did it the old horseman way. At this level, you have to have every edge you can. I mean, I think our horses get treated better than professional football players. I've never been a professional football player, but we do all the same stuff. There's my girls work so hard. It's crazy. The amount of hours the team has to put in, and us. Emily and I I'm Kate. This couple weeks I have 3 horses. I'm running around like a rock star here sitting in VIP, but that's not normal. Normal is I'm usually up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We've got our schedule set from the night before. Emily's really good at setting the schedule, and we'll have 15 to 20 horses going on an average during thermal daily. Well, for sure daily, because there's also the horses that aren't showing that have to get worked. But I usually get to the barn about 6:45. Kind of can time it by the minute. My staff has already finished doing all the stalls. We go over our lists. They have their own list, but then we kind of I'll pack my golf cart for the day, and then I don't usually get back to the barn in thermal anyways until 5 o'clock at night. Unload the golf cart, redo it, and then they seem to have a lot of night classes there. And you have night classes, which go till 10 o'clock at night. Back at home, hopefully in bed by 11:30, and back at it again at 5. And that goes on for 16 weeks. I feel like you're 10 years older every year. You finish the circuit there.
That's a grind.
Oh, it's a grind. That one is a grind, but it's also setting up the rest of the year. Spruce Meadows this year, I had 18 horses one week, or 2 of the weeks. That was intense. I brought in a really good friend of mine, Joey Gatlin, to help me out because I just knew I wouldn't be able to be there for the kids, all the kids, for that particular 2 weeks, and trying to compete. At Spruce Meadows especially is hard because they're all jump off classes and victory gallops. So it's basically like 3 rides per horse in one. So I was showing 7 there. Reagan had 3 or 4 going. Emmy had 4 or 5 going. Briley had 3 going. It was insane. So Emily, I try to keep on my hip all day long. She kind of guides me around. But at that particular show, I had to bring in some outside help, which was really crucial. It really helped. We work pretty hard. This isn't all glamour, glitz and glamour. In fact, there's very little glamour for me. I'm talking to you now, but I am going to make a point to go to this riders party here that's happening. I'm not from back here, so I want to schmooze around a little bit and see some of these guys and take advantage. But normally I don't really do anymore. I just don't have the energy. If I'm done at the barn and done riding, I'm back at home and usually asleep as early as I possibly can so that because I get up early these days.
I was just wondering, do you ever do a little cat nap?
Whenever I possibly can. It's a big joke. It's a big running joke. It's my last nap of the year. If I can go take a nap, I will. But I do get up stupid early, and I don't know if it's just an age thing or what. It is annoying. I wish I could sleep a little later, but it's just over the years of being a horseman. When your eyes open, you get to your feet. It's just the way I've been trained. That's the problem. If I open my eyes, I'm usually up, and it's nice. And sometimes it's my only real time to be alone. I'm either talking to a horse or a person or a client or trying to sell a horse or something all day long. So it is nice to get up early and have that hour, have my coffee, and just have my own thoughts for a second. It's really the only time of my day I'm not talking to either horse or myself.
Mm-hmm.
Or a client, sorry, or a client or a person or something.
Because I know your day's been long and your weeks have been long, I just wanted to finish with, so we've talked a little bit about dreams like Aachen and the Olympics. Is there anything in the immediate future that you're really looking forward to? I mean, because I did notice you have one, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is it pronounced Mermoz DB? Is a younger horse, a 7-year-old that you've seemed to have had some pretty good success with.
Yeah, I'm really, really liking him. He came along on this tour back east for some miles. He's a very modern type cool horse. Patty Vassy owns Odysseus, who's one of my main horses. She has those 2 that are 2 of my top horses. And Mermoz is a very exciting horse for the future. I have I call him my favorites. I went and found him last year, and I've got this black horse. His name's we call him Hyde in the barn, but I really think he's going to be something special for the future. He's 8 years old right now, and he wins a lot. Anyway, I gave him a little break after Spruce because I went really hard with him. He was very green for an 8-year-old at the beginning of the season, and I stepped him all the way up to meter 45s, and then I've just kicked. He hasn't even shown. I did him in a couple meter 30 classes about 3 weeks ago, but he's going to go push hard because these horses that are going now will get a little rest, and I'm going to go hard with the Hyde is my kind of main up and coming young horse that's going to be stepping into the Grand Prix here soon. I just, unfortunately, I just sold my other really good Grand Prix horse, SIG Chayari, just sold today, actually, which I was saving him at home to do the Grand Prix when I got home, but he just got sold. I had to kind of sell him. It was a syndicate of people that were together. I got to buy him for me or for a couple years ago, and it was just time. So anyways, I'm a little bit light on my second string of horses right now, but I think Mermaz and Hyde will be stepping right up. Mermaz will be 8 next year. Hyde will be 9. You always need more horses. So I've got another really nice Grand Prix horse that's been a little bit slow to come back from a small injury, which turned into longer than I thought, but he should be coming back. He's been showing a little bit. If he can join back up, he could really be used this year. The mare I want to be very careful with. I feel like she's had a very big year. I did commit to doing these major leagues, so I'm going to do this week, next week, then she'll get a pretty big break until the December major league. Odie's he's kind of a warrior. He'll keep going. Obviously, he'll get a little break after we come back, but I was going to plan on doing him in Santa Anita. I'm trying to climb these world rankings. I'm about to crack the top 100 here pretty quick. You got to keep at it. If you want to stay there, you got to have the horses. You got to have them fresh, and you got to be ready. So I feel like, yeah, if you maintain these horses properly, they can keep on going, but you got to be careful.
Well, and it is interesting because that's something I have noted. It does seem like you really have to chase it to get in the rankings. You have to really be going everywhere. And I just think that's probably a big challenge as a rider.
Well, you have to have enough horses that can handle that level, and that is hard. I mean, these horses are very, very expensive these days, and so you have to be careful. And you have to pick and choose where they excel and pick the right footing and stuff like that. Thermal, we're lucky. We have beautiful footing there in thermal. Horses seem to really thrive on that footing and last, and then they have a beautiful grass field. I think that's one secret to my sauce of keeping the horses sound is we compete a lot on grass, where I'm just really fortunate on the West Coast. The shows I do are mostly grass, and I think the horses stay a lot sounder, a lot longer on the grass. I was talking that to a lot of riders out here. Yeah, everything's the very modern silica footing that handles lots of rounds here, but I think it's harder on the horses. I am lucky to do the tour that I do on the West Coast. Is we have a lot of grass. Thunderbird is beautiful grass field, and Spruce obviously, and Thermal actually has a beautiful grass field that I'm trying to talk to the management about using more weeks because I quite like it. It's an advantage for me.
Mm-hmm. And it is interesting because I had this conversation with the veterinary last year, and she, to your point, said she saw a lot more concussive injuries with this new footing, even though it's great for the horse shows because they can run 24/7 pretty much if they wanted to, but not necessarily as good for the horses because of the impact. So
yeah, I mean they it depends on where it is. Like the one they have in thermal it's pretty amazing because I saw them build it. It's one of those ebb and flow rings, and those have a lot of cushion. So, but yes, I agree. I mean, it sounds hard. It is hard, but the way it concusses, you're trying to get better at them for sure. But yeah, I think it is a little harder on them. But the guys at this level, it's not like the old days. They're pretty. A lot of these guys have a number of different horses, so they can rotate and try not to overdo their horses. I mean, you look at the guys at the top; they're usually riding the same kind of, same horses for a long time. So as long as you're a good horseman and really know your horses, most of the guys at this level, these horses get looked after so amazing, and we're very careful. Knock on wood, all mine are staying really solid right now. It's me I got to worry about. I got a weird back and hip these days. The guy told me I might need a hip replacement at some day. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, I think I read somewhere in an article, but it was about 10 years ago, you were regular at the gym. So are you still doing the gym?
Well, I can't because my back. I mean, I do my stretches and I stay fit running around all day long and doing things,
Mm.
but the gym, every time I go to the gym, my back gets buggered up. I love going to the gym. I'd love to get up at 5 in the morning, go hit the gym, but and I do. I mean, I was this summer, I got back into it, but then my back, it's my hip. It's not really my
Mm.
back, it's my hip. So there's things I can do, but I can also do most of those things right in my living rooms.
Yeah.
So it's me and my wiener dogs in the mornings doing, I call it wiener dog yoga. I do
I
my,
was going to say, you need to talk to Erin Ballard because she swears by her stretches. And
yeah, no,
she may, I would say, do ask her about it because I know I interviewed her last year and she talked about that. She said since she started doing these stretches, and she said she kind of looks like a goof because she's always walking around the airport with her yoga mat with her. But she
yeah.
swears by these stretches as far as keeping her just physically feeling a lot better. So there, you can strike up a conversation with her about that.
I have talked to her about it. She's a tiger, that one. And yeah, she rides more than anybody. I mean, she goes as hard as I do for sure.
Exactly.
She,
And I thought you
she's,
both share the sort of the catch rider in common because I know that was something with her. She did a lot of catch riding, which I feel like she said that's what has made her so adaptable is because she didn't have a lot of really nice horses at that level, but she did get to ride a lot. So
yep, that's part of it. I mean, she came from a similar kind of background for sure. Her parents were professionals, and it's for sure was great asset for me to be from a horse dealing family and gotten to ride all kinds of different types. And the problem is when you're a boy and you're strong, then you kind of get labeled as riding the tougher ones, which I can ride the good ones pretty good too. The easier ones seem to go to the other riders, but things are changing now. Nowadays, it's different. I really guard myself. I will take on a horse, but I really vet it out first to make sure that it's not going to try to hurt me. I fight
so,
with my wife all the time when people come up to me to ride and ride their horse. I have to go through all the questions and feel it out. And I won't just go into a class. I'll take it now for a week and get to know it a little bit. I'm 50 now, and I got a lot of mouths to feed, so I can't just be a wild man anymore.
I love that you brought that up only because I had a trainer several years ago who was from Holland, and he said, like you, that he would always be asked to ride these difficult ones because he was tall and he was strong, and just like you said, I can ride the good ones,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they
but you
always
kind of get labeled as the guy that rides the tough ones, and I did that for years, and I mean, how stupid was that? But it's kind of the way I was raised, like get on and be able to ride anything, and but nowadays it's the sport is so watched after, and horses that are refusing and acting up and all that. Nobody needs to see you doing that. And honestly, looking back, who knows how many horses I rode and pushed them through injuries, that I didn't know. Like I feel really bad now when I look back at some of the horses that had attitude problems and probably they need to see the vet and have a little break and take a time. So I don't do that anymore. I will still take a horse with a lot of talent that maybe is a little tougher and stuff like that. But I make sure I'm not getting on something that's screaming to everybody, I need a break. It's something you got to pay attention to. And I think back in the old days, it was a different mentality. But nowadays, I carry a whip on every horse, but I never use a whip. You can't, yeah, it's more of a habit. Things are just so different now. You're being watched in every ring and every second. And the sport has changed so much. I don't know where I'm going with this, but
It has, and it's actually a perfect place to go because I did want to finish with a quote that I read on the FEI profiles that you had written, and it was listen to the horse, everyone is an individual. And I thought, just to your point, what you were just saying about you do need to listen to the horse. And I think that's where the sport has evolved. Now we know a lot of these horses that aren't wanting to do the job. It's not because they don't want to do the job, it's because they're hurting. But
yeah,
it's
it's true.
it takes a lot of experience to recognize that. So I think it's great that you are clearly on top of that. And all I really want to say at this point is congratulations on your great success in the last year. And I certainly wish you continued success. And I also want to thank you just for taking this time out because I know what life is like as a rider, how busy it is. So this is very precious that you're sharing this with me and with our listeners. It's really a gift.
Well, thank you so much. It's very nice to meet you, and hopefully I meet you in person someday. down the road.
Yes, I do hope that I'll get to meet you and that you will be officially able to get your passport and consider
I'm
yourself
working on it.
a
I'll be riding
dual.
for Canada.
You could be a dual rider like Matt Cohn.
Yeah, yeah, and Mario. I mean, it would be Mario was rode for the
That's
U.S.
right.
for
I
a while,
forgot. I forgot about Mario. That's true.
but yeah, I mean, it would be Aaron would be a very strong contender on as a teammate. Mario would be a teammate. So I'm really looking forward to it. We'll just need to get all this stuff together here quickly, but it's happening.
So if you'd like to learn more about upcoming guests, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Horse Tales with Cat.